right, welcome everybody. We are here for season 5, race 6 at Zandvoort. Um, Waiting for the warm-up lap here to start. I've got Jay with me again. Um, Looking at qualifying, we have Moda on pole with a dominating um, qualifying lap too. He was the only driver to hit the 134s. He just got in 134.9, so Moda's blazing here. Um, After Moda, we've got David Macedo. It's qualified with the 135.5. And then Alvarez with a 135.8. So those two guys should be looking really close this race. Other than that, we've got Darty with 136. Then down to Scott Taylor, 137. Pedro with the 137. Miller and Francisco all in the 137. So I think we should have a good battle with the most of the guys. From four down should have a pretty good. Oh, you know what? And I left out. Driveman also was in the 137. So these guys, all the way from fourth to ninth, look should be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean this is a track I've got a fairly fraught relationship with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about Zandvoort. Um, so this is an older version of the track. Um, there's a lot more banking now than there was when this track was designed for ACC. I am I am just not good around here. Hey, I'm pretty sure I'd be somewhere close to the back of the pack. But yeah, it's I mean a couple things. I mean it's good to see so many guys are so close in pace. I mean at least the guys in the back are gonna have some pretty close racing. I mean Moda seems to be sort of on his own time wise here.
Yeah, he
I
does.
wonder
He's on
if
a whole nother level.
yeah, I wonder if any of the other three can even catch him. Um, which be great for Moda. He's been fighting for a win all season so far, and
all season and even in past championship seasons, he's still one of the guys that you wouldn't expect to be winless, just with his level of talent. So
yeah, it's almost like I don't know, man. It's almost like to draw comparisons. It's like Lando Norris and chasing that first win in Formula One. He's been so close so many times, but something always happens and just misses it. I don't want to bring up any bad memories, but Sochi on the wet tires for Norris was literally snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. But yeah, it's been like that for Moda as well. He keeps putting in stellar performances, but for whatever reason, and usually of no fault of his own, something happens and kind of kind of changes the plan.
it does. I was
Uh,
gonna go with the football comparison and call him Dan Marino because I know
yeah, I
more
mean it would
football than
probably
racing. But
probably more applicable. I don't know how many people that watch this also watch F1, but the other thing I was going to say is it's a little disappointing to see only 9 guys show up this race. I mean,
yeah,
it's always better to have more guys on track, but as long as there's fun had, it's worth it, I guess.
yeah. It's if we can get a few close battles out here, it could make it entertaining. It's just with the lower grid count, it makes it tougher to find the battles out on the track, and hopefully things don't just get spread out and kind of get boring. But and so they're off. We've got almost three wide into turn one. That could end up bad. Alvarez had a pretty slow start. It looks like he's going to be up alongside Doherty. Maybe Doherty lifted off there to let him go, but Pedro's going to say thanks. I'll take that as well.
Yeah, I had a
And zooms.
little bit of a flashback to Paul Ricard onto the Mistral Straight there. Looks like Doherty got backed up behind somebody and had to let off the gas, and it just Pedro flew right past.
I,
Let's just hope it ends better than the end of the Mistral Straight at Paul Ricard.
I think he knew Alvarez had so much more speed than him that if he kind of started off in front of Alvarez, he was just going to hold him up and didn't want to ruin his race. I think he might have just let him by and then was going to try to fall in behind him. But
Well, I think a little farther behind than he had intended, but
I'd say.
mission accomplished.
And now he might regret that choice very bad because him and Pedro were close in pace, and Pedro is one of the harder drivers to get around. So
Well,
either he wanted this race to be in hard mode, or he wasn't really thinking that through fully.
I mean, it's usually hard to get around Pedro just because at times his head is so large.
Is that why the suspensions kind of lean to the left?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Uh,
Nah, I give Pedro a hard time, but he can definitely Pedro and humble are not words that often go in the same sentence.
only if you put "not" between them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
but it's the most endearing quality about Pedro, because if he was humble and didn't brag, you'd make it boring.
I think you and I pronounce endearing differently. But no, it's he's doing a pretty good job
Yeah,
of keeping ahead of Mike.
he is. And so far, Alvarez is giving David Macedo pressure already. It looks like.
And I don't know, I'd venture. I'm going out on a limb to say this because once again, like I said, this is not a track that I'm super comfortable with, but it almost seems like this track favors a well-balanced mid-engine car, just due to all the rotation required to get around a lot of these corners. It's not necessarily something that is a selling point for the front engines. It's usually stability under braking, that kind of stuff. But yeah, all of the really hard braking zones into corners here, and almost all of the mid-corner rotation that you need seems to really suit some of these mid-engine cars.
Yeah, that makes sense. And,
Well, I mean,
and
if you
this is a
look,
track, there's no real curbs you have to take here either. So, which is usually that tends to be the weakness of the mid-engine cars is having to cut curbs and stuff. And this is, I think, pretty curb-free cutting track.
yeah, and I mean, I say that I didn't even realize that almost the top four right now are all mid-engines. So,
Oh yeah, I think you're onto something then.
well, I mean, I think every car on track right now is a mid-engine except for the Nissan. So never mind. That is
Oh wow,
that.
I didn't even pick up on that. How about them
Well,
apples?
the Porsche's rear,
That's
but I mean,
rear,
still
yeah.
same concept.
Mid or back.
Yeah. So just never mind. Just forget I even mentioned that. Well, looks like Doherty is catching up with Pedro slowly but surely here, and looks like Alvarez
Oh,
is
I think we
keeping.
had.
Oh, did we get something?
Yeah, I saw. Um, Francisco had gotten by Miller.
watching that windscreen wiper sort of flex and move.
Ooh. So
Yeah, that's
just
tough, Miller.
yeah, just happened to get on the gas and have the rear go out there, so that is unfortunate.
Well, hopefully he avoided the wall. Oh
Yeah,
no, he did
little
not.
little tap. Yeah.
I mean, it could have been much worse, but yeah, that's not fun. I mean, especially after just the absolute shit show that was the race at Watkins for Miller.
I know. Yeah, he I thought Darty suffered a hard hit and then Miller just getting obliterated by Pedro
I
while
mean,
he was while he
that
was
race.
after hitting the wall. It was already bad enough. Poor guy hit a wall and was kind of bounced off it, rolling back a little bit, and then just gets
Yeah, it
creamed.
was almost like a death of a thousand cuts for Miller last race. It was just absolutely nothing could go right.
No. I'm sure he was hoping it would turn around this race, and still got time. Hopefully it's not a lot of damage. Let's ride on board with Miller quick to see how the car looks.
I mean, it doesn't look bad. I mean, the hood's not flapping around. I mean,
Was
I don't
able to
drive the
hold that
Audi very
flat
much,
out. Yeah, the thing.
so I'm not sure what the front end damage on this thing looks like. You know, what flaps and what doesn't. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's decently fine.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. We'll have to keep an eye if he's able to gain any ground on Driveman or not. We'll head back to Alvarez at this point, who is
Yeah,
still just glued onto Macedo.
I was gonna say Eric's doing a pretty good job of keeping pace with David here.
Yeah.
Moda is just kind of walking away. I mean, but you know, with that quali time, I kind of expected that he was gonna have a.
He's in a different class this race.
Yeah, you know, it's about time, really.
Yeah, now one thing from talking to Moda in practice this week. David touched off a little bit, but no harm. I'm going to show here. We'll ride on board with Moda. So Moda was real happy with his setup here. Loved the way the car felt in every part of the track except for one. And where it was bad, it was not just a little bad.
Right
it
here.
Was, yes.
Left-hander.
This right here.
Oh, this right. Yeah, this right-hander. Yeah, going down.
He was getting lift oversteer where when he goes to let off, the car would just come around on him. So that's going to be the one to watch out for, because I think no one's going to be able to touch him with his pace unless the car or him becomes his own worst enemy. So I'm sure if he gets out, even out as far as he's out right now, I'm sure he's not going to push through that section and be mindful. But yeah, from talking to him, that was his problem one all week in practice. But the benefits of how fast he was everywhere else, he kind of felt it was worth risking that one turn because it felt so good everywhere else to him.
Yeah, and that's the thing about a setup for a car is it's very much a trade-off. You can't make a car produce more grip than it can produce. So you almost always have to sacrifice mechanical grip somewhere for turn in or for whatever you want the car to do. So to make a car better there, therefore makes you sacrifice something everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's a good feeling to have a car that's just wicked fast on a track, but having one part of the track in particular where it's trying to actively kill you that's a tough one. I mean,
it is. And he kept saying too, the other part of it was it would send him off and then right into that little barrier. Oh,
oh,
and
oh, oh, oh.
So
Oh,
the
he saved it.
yeah,
Holy.
he did. And I didn't see. Did he catch? Just was it the curb that unsettled it? Was
Yep.
that what? Is that what it
Yeah,
was?
he cut just a little bit too much on that inside curb, and it
Let me
did
go
not
back.
agree with the McLaren whatsoever.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. This is.
Oh yeah, he
I mean,
got a
that's fairly
good
common.
chunk of it there. So yeah. Well, like you said, good news. No damage to the car. Got right back on. Didn't even lose that much time considering because he managed to not have the whole car spin around either, which was good.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that ACC does not um, simulate underbody or floor damage on these cars, because I
Hmm.
can guarantee that that was a pretty wicked bottoming out on that curb that
Did
caused that.
I saw a bunch of dirt? Did Alvarez touch off here?
I think most people are probably doing that through that.
Oh, not
Oh,
that.
through
Is that
there.
what everyone's
Oh,
doing?
not that. No, I was talking about on the exit of that
I was
corner.
I was gonna say. I was like, wait a second, Jay. Is there some?
No,
This is why I'm so slow here. I don't know about
no,
this.
no. On the exit,
Uh,
running wide and cutting, putting a couple tires in the grass as you're
yeah,
coming back onto the track is
that
fairly
makes
common.
sense.
But no, that's
Yeah, I saw quite the dust cloud, and I was like, that looked a little bit more. I figured something happened. I didn't realize it was even that much. I thought maybe he just touched off a little bit. But good news for him, he managed to keep the car straight through that and get back on the
oh,
track.
that was a Rainbow Road-esque shortcut there.
Mm. So we've got um, Pedro. Darty's still glued to Pedro. Pedro hasn't gotten away, but it doesn't look like Darty's been able to make it past him either.
There aren't really that many passing opportunities around this track. Um, it's pretty nonstop direction changes, and a lot of these corners are like this one is just insane to try to pass around. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that Doherty's still kind of back there, because it's kind of hard to set up a passing opportunity around here,
Well,
because most of these corners lead straight into high braking zones, which are themselves part of the corner.
and I'll tell you what's going to happen too if he does start to push and try to start making a pass somewhere. I see Scott Taylor has joined the fight practically. He's only about a second down from Doherty, so if these two kind of start to get to battling a little bit, I expect Scott will be right there in the mix.
And speaking of Scott, he and I had a talk, and the incident that he had at Watkins was due to a not a hardware failure, but apparently he was racing so hard he pulled the shaft out of his CSLDD.
Holy! So he's green. He's the Hulk, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So no, he got that all sorted out, figured
Oh,
out how to
good,
get fixed. So
good, good,
yeah,
good.
we had a laugh about that one. But yeah, if he can catch Doherty, and if Doherty decides to make a move on Pedro, that's potentially two places Pedro could go down if Scott follows Doherty through. Ooh, a little bit
Oh,
of
and that's gonna give Pedro a little bit of space.
Yeah, that's always kind of terrifying.
Yeah, and aside from the hardware failure or the brute force failure, I don't know what we want to call Scott's um, issue the other week, but he's been having a great season so far. He's been extremely competitive this whole season, and he's right up in the mix up front in just about every race so far.
Yeah, and that's really the whole point. Is it's not about being the fastest. It's about being it's about A, being present, and B, being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you can pull Moda-esque times, but you can't keep the damn car on the track, then a guy who's a second and a half slower than you per lap's still probably gonna place higher than you. And
Yep,
did
it's
we see
true.
Mike have a little bit of
I
a
think he did. He might be trying to test some things to figure out how he might be able to get around Pedro here, but that's not going to be the way. Let's see if he's. I don't know if that GTR is going to catch. And he has to let. I was curious if he had to let off or not on that last section. You notice some cars can kind of push through that final turn without letting off, and other ones they just can't get enough rotation or
yeah.
front end to get around it.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, that's a that's sort of a deal breaker for me. Is I prefer a pointy car,
Mm-hmm.
a car that goes where you want to when you tell it to, but is maybe a bit harder to control. And understeer is just the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I really am with you on that. It's it's hard to solve understeer. I feel like oversteer you can solve with throttle modulation or just you know controlling the car itself. But the understeer stuff, I mean, what do you do? You kind of have to ease on the brake at the nose pointed to the front, or the weight transferred to the front a little bit. Like, how do you really solve an understeer problem? Like, or how do you drive around an understeer problem? I guess is the
Well, it all
question.
depends on what's causing it. I mean, if it's on throttle understeer, then you could try maybe some differential changes
Yeah.
to allow the rear wheels to maybe spin at different rates. I mean, that might be causing your understeer if it's just, bad contact with the track due to too much or too little
Mm-hmm.
camber. I mean, you can
Uh,
fix it there. I mean,
oh no, what I'm saying is once you have the problem, how do you drive
oh, once you
around it?
have it,
Yeah, like it's not like
there's
yeah,
no
it's
way to
not
drive
like the over. Yeah, exactly. Like, at least oversteer, I feel like you can kind of manage and drive around it, or.
I mean, once you're dealing with an understeery car, you just kind of have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Um, you can try to induce oversteer um, by,
That's true. Yeah, mashing
trying to
throttle with the.
trying to whip the throttle,
Yeah.
around corners. But I mean, that's not really a tenable solution.
No,
Um,
it's not, and especially with these cars, with the fact that A, like the traction control on them, and B, is I've noticed when you do try to mash the throttle to kind of get the car to come around, it's not always consistent every time either.
yeah,
Like
and
you're
that's the
not.
thing.
Yeah.
It's not like, racing a modified street car. These are these are purpose-built machines with, race-built TC. I mean, you could turn your
The
TC down, but
aero and all the grip from the aero and everything.
yeah, I mean, it's running low TC is all fine and dandy, but um, you're just going to be cooking your tires on both ends. Understeering through the corners is going to cause more heat in your fronts, and trying to induce oversteer is going to kill whatever tire is the dominant tire around the corners. So instead of just being hurting at one end, you're going to be hurting at both. So it's best to just try to,
Yeah.
maybe get on the throttle a little bit later coming through corners, try to get a straighter exit, late apex. Try not to lean so much on the fronts. But yeah, that's really all I can come up with.
Yeah, that's more than I could think of for for dealing with it. That's half the reason I hate it so much. So Doherty still is not really pulled in on Pedro. I mean, their pace seems pretty similar. He catches them in some areas. He's kind of pulled on him this lap so far.
Yeah,
But
Pedro seems pretty. He seems to be going pretty gingerly through that really long right-hand section. I think maybe he's got a little bit of instability going through there too. Because I did notice that Doherty caught him pretty quickly
ooh,
toward the.
Doherty goes
Ooh,
wide there again.
yeah, that looked like an attempt on a switcheroo there that just did not quite materialize.
No. And you know what? He might want to stop trying to get to do that kind of stuff because he's not pulled him back off of his car.
Yeah,
Ideally, I think the one where you would love to be is if you could catch someone on the straight, get in their draft, get alongside them on the straight, and beat them into position in turn one. That might
the
be the only
best place to be, turn one is wide. This is such a wide part of the
way.
track, and you can carry so much more speed around the outside of this corner than you can on the inside.
Ooh,
I mean, you
he
saw a little bit of it
pay
there.
he. I think if Pedro didn't keep that on the inside, if he would have gone a little too fast and not been able to hold the inside, Doherty might have been able to cut back on him there. But Pedro
Yeah.
kept it tight.
I mean, it looks kind of like both of them got a little sketchy in that corner. It's a little twitch from Pedro, and Doherty, I think, kind of saw that too because he backed off quite a bit. Yeah, it is so sketchy trying to pass through most of the places. I mean, this section back here is fairly decent. I mean, these corners aren't too fast. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can usually make
But you
something
got a
happen
lot of
back here.
understeer through here too. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of
Uh,
hard. These both of these turns right here, the one before that and this one, the cars do not have a lot of grip through.
yeah, and that all depends on what you're driving too. So, I mean, that Ferrari and that Lambo, I
Hmm.
think, are having a better time on the back half of this track than that Nissan is for sure. Now, Mike does look a bit closer than he did last lap. So maybe by the end of this straight, he's going to have a bit more.
You'll see. Got. He's gonna go. He goes inside to outside. Oh, he's gonna have
Yeah.
the inside this time. No, he
Oh,
could
yep.
had to let off, or he was gonna go in. He couldn't keep the throttle pinned.
Yeah, that was a pretty good move by Pedro there. He just kind of parked it right in the middle of the track and made Doherty sort of decide where he was going. And it looks like Mike didn't quite know exactly what was the best course of action to take there. But yeah, no, Pedro did that. He did that perfectly. He didn't
He knows what he's
overcommit.
doing.
He did not overcommit to a defense. He just parked it in the middle and let Doherty sort of choose the outcome of that one. It was like a choose your own adventure there.
Let's check back. So Miller, 4 seconds back at Driveman. So 1:38.5. So his time doesn't seem too best time doesn't seem too far off from his quali. So again, I don't think he has much, if any, damage from that. But he's not been able to make any ground on Driveman. Um, and Driveman looks like he has. I was gonna say a few. So it's 5 seconds behind Francisco. I'd love to see another battle with these guys. It's been real entertaining. Francisco
Well,
and Driveman, but
so Miller has been catching a little bit. I think the last time
oh,
that I checked back with Miller, he was was about five and change behind Driveman, so he's making up time.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, I mean it's maybe by the end of this we'll see another close fight here.
I would love it if we could get Francisco, Driveman, and Miller grouped up again. They always provide us some entertainment.
Yeah, yeah, the last few races it's been interesting to watch those guys.
Oh, it has. And Scott's just sitting here waiting for his chance to pounce once these guys either take each other out or if uh or if they get caught up trying to pass each other in any way. He's gonna take advantage of it. He's just right there.
Yeah, and you got to imagine that Pedro's getting a bit fatigued. Um, Racing in a situation like that where there's a guy on your bumper lap after lap after lap. The best way to put it is mental fatigue. I mean,
Yeah.
it's by the end of the race, you're just exhausted, and it's different than physical exhaustion. It's just like your brain reaches a point where it just can no longer process information. And being in a high stress situation
Oh,
like that
and
is,
he's gonna tap out of that high stress situation. He is pulling into the pits. I think he got what the doctor ordered. Just what you were talking about, Jay.
yeah. I mean, that's see, that's a move you'd usually see the guy behind
Mm-hmm.
make. Not able to pass, so pit for some tires and hope for some clean track and make up some time while the other guys, got to come in for his pit later. But yeah, let's see how that works out.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not usually the move you see, but like at the same time, if maybe he was feeling the fatigue and was just needed the to take a breather.
Yeah,
Although knowing
yeah, I
Pedro, I
definitely,
think he thrives on that stuff. I don't think he really.
yeah, I can hear him cackling maniacally.
So this will be something we'll have to watch for, because I think if Pedro would have stayed in front of Darty, I don't know if Darty would have been able to get around him. It looked like Pedro was doing the few spots where it looked like Darty had a chance. It seemed like Pedro was able to defend really well. Um, so this will be interesting. We'll have to see when Darty pits if he ends up in front or behind Pedro. And Pedro pitted pretty early too. We're looking at the time. He was at the 24-minute mark of the race, so pits opened at 20 minutes. He pitted 4 minutes into them being open, so we're not even at the halfway point yet. Let's take a look at Moda. He's reached some lap traffic. Is that Pedro after
Yeah,
pitting?
it's Pedro.
And surely we won't see Pedro defend here.
Well, I mean, I would hope.
Unless he still has some PTSD from Doherty being behind him for the first half of the race. Just
Yeah, having flashbacks.
starts doing it naturally. Yeah, I think too with Moda. Oh my God, could you? I mean, I don't know Moda's state of mind, but if I'm putting myself in Moda's shoes, if this was looking like my first race that I was going to be able to win, and you start approaching the lap traffic, even if it's guys you trust, like you've got to be a little bit worried. Like, oh my God, please don't take me out. Please don't ruin this. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
He lets him
and I've
by.
I've been in that position before where you're racing and you're doing well and you're like, oh my God, finally, is this gonna pan out? And anytime you run into any lap traffic, it's just like, I swear, if you ruin this, I will never forgive you.
Yeah, it could be really difficult, especially with the different speeds. And a lot of times, it's not even someone purposely doing something, they'll try to, um, panic and move out the way, or panic and
Yeah.
brake and just do something unexpected, and that can be enough to catch you.
Yeah, but in the moment, it doesn't feel like that. In the moment,
No.
you're super stressed and maybe not thinking clearly. And yeah, it's definitely one of those things you really need to think about after the race, do some soul searching.
So Alvarez, I think it was 4 seconds ahead of David. So he's got a decent, five, almost 6 seconds behind, in front of David Macedo. So he's pulled out. Um, Moda's way out in front of him, so 12 seconds. So the guys out front have really spaced out. So I guess the only thing that's probably going to shuffle things up here is if someone makes a mistake pitting or stop and go, or makes a mistake out on the track. Jan Taylor is
Yeah,
still glued to Doherty. He very similar pace, so you can tell this gives a good indicator. Doherty's going to go pull in the pits now, so that's a good indicator that it really wasn't Pedro holding Doherty up much either, if any, because we saw Scott right there with him, and it wasn't from those guys slowing down, battling at all. I mean, it looks like they really do legitly. Those three have very similar pace here.
hmm and those are always the most fun races. Where there's not some disparate levels of pace, where everything's very evenly matched, and it's literally a slugfest to try to get position. I
So
mean,
if so, this is it. So Doherty's still in the pits. Pedro's coming around the straight here. So this, we'll see if this puts Pedro back in front. I don't know what the best view for this is. I don't see Doherty exiting. There's Doherty right there. And
and he beat
Doherty
him.
just makes it out in front of him. You know,
Oh
you
man,
know Pedro had to have been when he saw that yellow car.
and the overcut worked. That's crazy on a short track like this. On short tracks, it's usually the undercut that's super powerful. But yeah, that's makes me wonder if Pedro maybe missed a half a second or so coming in,
And
or
yeah, rolled past the pit board slightly or
yeah.
whatever. Now, we'll see though if Pedro can kind of squeeze the vice on Doherty here and pressure him into making a mistake. Doherty
Well, I
has,
mean, it looks like he's already putting the screws to him. So I mean, right on. Oh, ugh,
yeah.
that
I think that's
was
the
that was
same
a bit of a.
same thing we were seeing Doherty do when he was behind Pedro right there. Now wait, we saw Scott leave as well, right? Uh, did no, Taylor has not pitted yet.
He has not.
So it'll be interesting when Taylor does choose to pit. Because I'm
Well, it
curious when
seems
he gets out where he'll kind of go into all this.
it seems like those few laps of open track in front of Doherty helped. So I wonder if maybe
Yeah.
the few laps that Scott's going to pull here. Oh, and he's coming
Here
in.
we go. Okay, so Scott is pitting. So let's see what happens. Yeah, I think Doherty has managed to eke out to a second in front of Pedro now.
Yeah, and that 30 seconds or so that you're in the pits, just sitting there, stationary, it just feels like an eternity.
All right, so now we're gonna do the same thing we did with Pedro. Let's see where if Doherty beats Taylor. Let's just see. Oh yeah, Taylor is leaving. This is gonna be interesting. It looks like the same thing with Pedro and Doherty. Doherty ends up
He,
behind him.
oh, Doherty got
So
Doherty'd.
I think Doherty's
Oh
he's
no,
got Scott on cold tires. Oh, Scott has a
Taylor's got to
stop and
stop and
go.
go. Oh no, sped
I don't
in the
know if
pit.
Doherty even sees that. He looks like he's trying to press on Scott. I think he thinks Scott's this is his chance to get by him, but I think it looks like Scott actually just moved over, knowing he has to take the stop and go.
Yeah, and that's.
Oh,
I
poor
mean,
Scott.
Scott is a mensch for doing that. I mean, he didn't
Oh,
have to. He could have fought Doherty and probably caused a wreck, but he's got to stop and go anyway. So why even
yeah. Oh,
why contest it?
that's so frustrating for Scott because he was right back, in the mix with Doherty and Pedro. I want to know what could have been.
Well,
Oh!
oh no, yeah, you can tell Scott is just
Yeah, that's
beside himself
that's
right
not
now.
like him at all. It looked pretty close in the end car. I don't want to. Yeah, just got by. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it happen to anyone, but especially drivers like Scott, you really don't want to. Especially in a race where, again, it was just so entertaining with these three.
Well, so I think he's going to be coming out just behind Driveman. He might come out right in front of Miller,
Oh, we'll
but we'll
have to
see.
watch that.
Now, I'm thinking with that extra time down the pit lane, he's gonna end up behind Miller.
Yeah. 224. We'll have to see. Miller is. Oh yeah, Miller's coming down the straight now.
Yeah. Miller has caught up with Driveman. He's just
Ooh.
just about 3.5 seconds. Well, he was just about 3.5 seconds behind him. So something happened there.
And Scott's finally getting released. Yeah, it's gonna. Unfortunately, be quite a bit back. I'm curious once it starts recording just how far.
Ooh, looks
Yeah.
like Miller's having some issues.
Yeah, maybe there was a little something with the car. I don't know. Although I guess by now, unless he didn't fix it in the pits. But
Makes me wonder if perhaps there was a bit of a pit strategy error, and he's maybe on some tires that are underinflated.
yeah, that could be a possibility.
Because that thing seems to be taking a lot more walks than I saw it doing earlier.
Yeah, he's got driving still in view, but
Yeah, that last lap was about a second slower than his best. So yeah, it looks like he was having a bit of a bear. Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. I've come in for a pit stop and just absolutely borked my temps. And you come out, some tires are overheated, some are under pressured. It's just it's just it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's another thing. Like dealing with an understeery car, dealing with tire pressures out of whack's another big problem. Well, now, do you prefer underinflated or overinflated? Like if you had to air, you know, a half psi too high or too low, what do you prefer to deal with?
Well, so it all depends on time of day. So if you're racing in the early hours before midday, then underinflated is always better. As the track temp goes up, that problem will almost always solve itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you're racing in the mid afternoon, and track temps are going to go down. I would almost always err on being maybe a you know zero point 0.3 to a half a psi over. Um,
Yeah, I'll tell.
Also, as your tires wear, they don't hold heat as well, so
Hmm.
your temps will go down as
Will
your
drop.
tires wear.
Interesting. Yeah, for me personally, as soon as that car gets above the 28 psi, it is just an instant drop off for me on the car's drivability. Like,
Oh, and it
I
will be.
yeah, like I can deal with like suppose like the 27.7 is supposed to be like the optimal range, give or take a few psi depending on the car and your driving and stuff. And but I can deal with like 26.8 much better than I can deal with like a 28.1 or 28.2. Uh, it is terrible for me if it's overinflated. If it starts to get overinflated.
Yeah, so overheated and overinflated tires, it seems like your loss of grip is less progressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more instant. And underinflated tires seems to
Chew them up
um
faster, I would imagine, because
well, yeah, I mean it's not great for your tires, but
if you're
it
doing an
seems
endurance
like
race, it's probably gonna be a problem. But
yeah. It seems like it's a bit more progressive though. Like you can better identify, oh hey,
yeah,
Escobar having a
was there
little
a little bit of?
excursion there.
Oh yeah, that's an easy place
Yeah.
to do it. That can actually really, you can really wreck the car there too pretty easily. You start walking off and you just slide into the wall.
And the curbs are so high there on that part of the track, even coming
Mm-hmm.
back onto the track through there. So yeah, it's rough. But no, I think underinflated tires are easier to control. They're
Mm-hmm.
more predictable. But yeah, it's not great for your tires either way.
No.
Um, you can always scrub to make more heat. The only way to cool your tires down is to go slower. So
And to this point, Pedro's 3.5 behind Doherty. Um,
whoa.
I'm sure he's pushing. Yeah, and last he got a 137.9, so he's staying in the 137s. Oh, we can see Darty's last 137.6. So
I mean, there's not a big difference. I
nope.
mean, it's quite literally just, you know, a couple mistakes a lap from being
look, and Scott 137.3,
Oh,
137.3. Like he get the exact, like they're all so close in pace. If he would have still been up there with them. Who
um,
was that in the background? Was that
that was
Macedo?
that was that was David Macedo hitting the wall coming out of the hairpin.
Did he hit the wall?
He did.
How am I back far enough, or I gotta go back more? Where are
No,
we?
this is right. This is right where it happened.
Oh yeah, little rub.
Yeah, that must have been some pretty massive understeer to hit that wall. Either that or the rear end stepped out on him, and that was really the only thing the car would do.
Trying to figure out how far. I mean, just trying to see the gap between Darty and Macedo. I don't think they're gonna be. Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be any chance. Yeah, 30, nearly 30 seconds. So
I
ain't no.
don't know.
So David's, as long as he doesn't keep hitting walls, I think he's definitely got third sealed. So podium finish should be in the script for him.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You can't call it too early because we've seen a couple times so far this season where
Woohoo!
yeah,
Little drifty drift. With the
yeah,
David loves to get loose. What race were we seeing that? Was that Watkins? We were
yeah, that
him and
was.
Kyle were like battling for who could earn the most drift points.
Or was that Paul Ricard? It was one of the two. I can't remember.
Yeah, neither can I.
No, no,
I
it
think it
was
was
Watkins.
Watkins. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we were watching both those McLarens get quite loose.
Well, you know what? Let's go on board with Moda since we just started a lap. Or no, we didn't. I thought we were a different part of the track.
Well, it'll be coming up here pretty quick.
Yeah, it will, especially as fast as Moda is around here. I'll tell you, Moda makes that Porsche look a lot easier than it is.
Yeah, it's definitely a handful.
And it's funny because, you know, it shows his maturity with the Porsche because it used to be Moto would have one or two airs a race that would get that Porsche spun around, but it really doesn't happen anymore. So here we go. We'll ride on board with Moto for a lap. I'll let you walk us through Zandvoort.
Sure. Well, you want to break I think about the signs into T1, and then through here it's more like a dab down on the gears, and then hard into this one. I'm gonna get on the power as early as possible. Use all the track. Through here should be pretty well flat, and then this corner, right up at the top of the hill, right about that orange paint on the barrier, you want to sort of get off the gas and down a couple gears. And here it's about that crane, trying to clip that curb. There's really no braking marker there. You can use the sign on the right-hand side as sort of a general guide, but here it's the orange paint on the barriers, down a gear, on the gas, flat all the way down here to about the start of the red and white curbing on the left. And then down the gears, touch the apex. You want to, in some cars, you want to try to late apex that, but the Porsche seems to handle it just fine. This is another dab of the gas, down a gear, or dab of the brake, sorry. And then through here, it's just trying to find a line that lets you take this
Hmm.
flat, and in some cars that is almost impossible.
It does not look a problem for Moto in that Porsche. I don't. It didn't
No,
even look like he was close to running to the edge.
no, the Porsche and on-throttle rotation
Yeah, yeah.
are not they're not mutually exclusive.
No.
They that is one thing the Porsche has. It's,
Gosh,
an
so
amazing on the brakes and really good acceleration out of corners and really
yeah,
good rotation through corners.
yeah, absolute demon just ripping out of corners.
But corners like this where you have to get off the gas,
Mm-hmm.
it gets so sketchy.
Yeah, because you think you got all that weight right over the rear axle, so it's
Hmm.
just ready to slingshot around on you.
And once it goes, it's gone.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
there's
yeah. You're not doing David Macedo drifting with the Porsche.
if you got a wide enough track, you might be able to ride it out, but
There's gonna be a
it's
few
usually
rotations in there.
yeah, it's usually straight into the wall, and it's
Yeah,
usually backwards as well. So,
yeah.
and there's only one thing worse than a Porsche, and that's a Porsche with aero damage on the rear. So,
Hmm.
speaking of backwards, I brought up the reverse racing that they I don't know if they still do it. I know it was a big thing back in the 70s. But around Zandvoort, they actually have a reverse race. And that doesn't mean they race the track in reverse, or it means they race the cars in reverse around the track. And it is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. The
I
Porsche
can't
would fit in
imagine.
just fine there.
I can't imagine what it would do to your reverse gear.
Oh, the cars don't survive. I mean,
Yeah.
that's that's the one thing. It's a lot like a caravan race where you tow a camper behind a truck around a racetrack. It's one of those deals where the car's probably not going to survive.
Yeah, at this point, we got about 10 minutes left of the race. Everybody is fairly spaced out. Macedo to Alvarez is probably the closest on the track. But that at 5 seconds, um, I don't think Alvarez has anything to worry about.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow, that was oh, that was
Well, he might
scary.
have something to worry about if that happens.
Yeah, that was spooky scary right there. That's the last thing you need. You know, home stretch of the race, just keep your nose clean, try not to bin it, and something like that happens. I've said it many times before, but that's enough to wake you up. You can
Certainly.
tend to get a little complacent toward the end of these races, especially if you're all by yourself.
Oh yeah, he start to almost lull you to sleep.
Yeah, you start doing your taxes. That'll snap you out of that pretty quick.
Yep. And I see David bringing the time down. He's got it down to, he might be at 3 seconds. It's at 4-1 right now, but the way he's been reeling them in, it might, when it updates, it might show him even closer. Let's see. Yeah, no, still about 4-1. But yeah, he pulled him in with the other lap. He was closer to about 5 seconds down. So I don't think we're at 7 minutes left in the race. I can't imagine he'd be able to make up over 4 seconds. But we'll keep an eye. We'll see.
Well, that lap was, I think, about a tenth off his fastest.
So yeah, he's definitely pushing.
Yeah, he's doing what he can here. It looks like he's dropped a tenth to Alvarez. Yeah, and I can guarantee Alvarez is watching that relative as well. So
Oh, look at this, down to 3.5. He took another little chunk out. I don't know if Alvarez is starting to have problems with the car. Maybe the tire's going this late in the race. Oh, and goes off.
yeah, I think he's paying a little too much attention to the
I think so.
to the relative and
I
making
wish.
some mistakes.
I think you're right. I wish we could see like tire temp and some of the stats and for the other cars we're watching just to know. But
Yeah, it would be nice. But I think we might be SOL on that one.
yeah,
Hopefully for Kunos's next um, iteration of Assetto Corsa, they pick a bit more friendly of a game engine when it comes to telemetry.
well, I guess too you can't. Um, maybe people don't want too much information shared either with what tire pressure. Some people, I don't think anyone here cares, but I'm sure in
Oh,
some.
there.
Oh, did David? Did David go off? He's got it down to 2.8. I mean, he is pulling him in like crazy. We've only
Yeah, it
got
looks like yeah,
5 minutes left.
that last lap by Eric was
Oh,
over a second off his fastest.
so
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 I think he might be having some issues.
I think David might have made a mistake or did go off that a little bit. He's back up to 3.6 now. He had it down to 2.5 or so, and just it just went back up. So I think he might have made a slight error. It's too bad. He was really pulling it in.
Well, I mean, let's see what happens. I mean, there's enough time left that one of these guys could just have an absolute brain fart and drive it straight through a corner. Yeah, and that's the thing is David's getting pretty brave on some of these high curbs, and we've all seen that this McLaren and high curbs do not mix.
No, it does not.
Yeah, and there's tons of time to make up through here if you can nail this right. I never can. I
Nope.
mean, I
Me
always
neither.
lose so much time through that.
It's such an awkward turn. Is this the banked section now? You mentioned the updated.
Yes.
This is
So
the
this
old.
whole
So that
area,
area is now banked.
yeah, that whole last big long curve is got some pretty wicked banking on it now.
So look at this. David's got him back down to 2.3. David's just wishing there was some more time in this race because he really looks like he has the pace to pull Alvarez in at this point.
Yeah, and that's always really frustrating. Like when you know you've got the pace
Mm-hmm.
and you literally just run out of, just a half a lap more.
That's all he needs. If he had
I've
just a
I've
few more
been there
laps.
many a time, and that's super frustrating.
Thing too, though, given it's Zandvoort, even if he did catch him, I don't know if he'd be able to have a place to make a move to get around right away.
Well, that's the one thing about David Macedo. He's all about making his own opportunities. So
Alvarez is doing a great job keeping trying to keep it going. Like you said, I'm sure he keeps looking at that delta. The car. It looks like it's definitely the car though, because I see him 136. You know he's not that far off his fastest though. He just got a 136.6 there. Maybe David just started finding a lot of extra pace at the end of the race. I mean, his last was a 136.2, huh? Well, we got some lap traffic too. David now has it to 1.7. Oh, you know Alvarez has got to be panicking right now because of
oh
lap
yeah,
traffic. Oh. And here I thought everything was getting spaced out. We weren't going to have any action here at the end.
well, I mean, it could also work in Alvarez's favor too. I mean, if he can get past this traffic, he can get it between him and Macedo, especially in an advantageous area of the track. Oh no, this looks like it's the
Yeah, this is it. I can see his little celebratory swerve.
yeah. Luckily, that did not.
Yeah. Great job, Alvarez. Well, first
Yeah,
off,
that
great
was
job to Moda, our champion. That first race win in one of the championship season races. Great job for him. Um,
yeah. It's good to see him
Doherty's
get it.
got Pedro close. Doherty must have made a mistake at some point because um, Pedro looks to only be a couple seconds back, and he was more than that earlier.
I
Yeah,
just love the
this will
way
be
that
Francisco. Everyone else is already. Which that the Lambo?
the Lambo. I love the
Yeah.
way that car sounds. That V10 is just oh 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 the
Oh,
post race
we
celebration where
we know how
Doherty just
yeah we know how he felt now.
yeah.
All right. Well, congrats to Moda. First win. That's awesome. I'm well deserved, well earned. Um, I'll let you start, Jay, for our driver of the day.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there there weren't really too many
drivers this race?
Well, yeah, I mean, there weren't really too many really heated battles that went on.
Mm.
I mean,
All right, true.
obviously,
No driver
obviously
of the day for
Moda's
anyone.
no, no, no. Obviously, Moda's a good pick. I mean, he's finally gotten that win. Uh, I might have to just go with Alex. I mean, it's good to finally see the persistence pay off.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's a great one to do. I mean, that's who I would pick. I would if I could pick the same. Am I allowed to pick the same driver? That would be
Yeah,
no fun.
absolutely.
Okay, well I will give my driver of the day also to Alex because it is just as long as Alex been racing with us, he's a great guy, great driver. It's impossible to believe he hasn't won one of the championship races yet. Um, and so it's great to finally to have one happen. So I will as well pick Alex Moda for my driver of the day.
Well, I mean, it's he
But
deserves it.
I
So
I do I
that's a
do want to,
that's a good pick.
yeah, I do want to congratulate the other podium finishers though. Alvarez, great race. Kept it exciting down to the end for props to David. If David would have caught Alvarez, that would have been the clear driver of. I would have been able to give my vote to that for sure. But that was great. They kept it exciting for us. So thank you to the guys. Um, Jay, thanks again for joining me as always, and I guess we'll wrap it up here if and see everyone next week for Kyalami, unless you have anything else before we sign off.
No, just wanted to say that may include a link to a video about the reverse racing around Zandvoort if
Oh,
anyone's interested in
we
watching that.
we will put that in the YouTube description.
Uh, it's uh it's an awesome creator on YouTube. His name is Power Q, uh, Quentin Voss. He's a great guy. He does a lot of ACC content as well, some iRacing stuff. So if you're not subscribed, I would say he's probably a pretty good bet. So yeah, I'll go ahead and include that, and
Awesome.
you guys can check it out if you'd like.
Check it out. I'll be sure to do the same. All right, well, thanks, Jay. Anyone else interested in joining us? The season's getting ready to wrap up, but no reason you can't join us for the last couple races of the season. Um, the Discord link will be in the YouTube description. Again, our championship races are Saturday nights, 9:30 Eastern. Um, Thanks again, Jay, and we'll see everyone next week.